Mastery loadouts have just been released and welcome to a brand new video. This one is going to be about how the mastery loadouts work. And if you want some really cool mastery options, that's going to be coming out in a later video. But what I wanted to do with this video is make a very short, quick video as to how this particular new feature works in game. But there's some things I just need to reiterate if you're coming to this feature for the very first time. You cannot use it in Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds already has its own type of mastery loadout system. So if you think that you're kind of like going to get past that 1,000 units of getting a different loadout, that's not the case and you should watch out for it. Number two, one of the other general kind of like tips and things to go over. I mean, you can find that information in the description if you don't want to hear me. Look. This is something that will be very specific to you if you want to actually switch. Some people like switching between different masteries. Other people do not. So you've got your options to either do it or not. You have 3 different loadouts you can click on, which you can see here: Loadout 1, Loadout 2, and Loadout 3. So that's, of course, a key thing to mention. Also, it will cost you 35 units each time to switch between these different masteries after you have set them active. We'll talk about that in a moment, but as I said, this is more of a kind of general thing, general notes to mention. It will also not cost you any more units to unlock any more further loadouts. So there's no mastery loadout 4 or 5 or anything like that. You can just do the 3. For the first week, mastery loadouts are available from today until April 8th. They will have there will be free mastery costs as well as no associated mastery loadout costs. That's something Kabam even say in this note right here on the website. So do be warned on that. Something just quickly for myself. I did mention just a moment ago that it's different strokes for different folks if you feel that you want to switch out your masteries. I'm going to give you an example from my personal perspective why I'll be using this system a lot more, and that is to farm arena a little bit more quickly. One thing that, as a lot of you know, there's the Summoner Sigil. The Summoner Sigil has express mode. Now, I don't spend in the game, but if I was to enjoy such a feature, it would be about doing as much damage as possible with pace using a suicide mastery build, something that's able to maximize high amounts of damage in a very short space of time. That is one thing. The second thing will be doing content in game that I can either switch between a different mastery set to do more damage, or at least kind of go back from that and go, I'm going to switch from my suicide masteries back to a more general set if it's going to punish the likes of using willpower or other types of masteries. So hopefully that gives you an idea if you're at that point of going, well, why do I need to spend my masteries? What and how should I look at this particular methodology when using this feature? So let's get right down to business on some of these top tips. The first thing is name your masteries. You can see right now it says Loadout 1, Loadout 2, and Loadout 3. Make sure to name these something. So what I've done already is switch them out. You can see bottom left hand corner, General / Alliance Wars Defense. Loadout 2 is Arena / SM or Suicide Masteries. Loadout 3 is Mystic D, a Mystic Dispersion orientated. I'm not saying you have to go by these particular setups. And you may look, depending on where you are in the game, to rotate these around and just change the general kind of recovery of points and setting out new types of masteries as you go on. You may be like, oh, well, I want to set up a different type of defensive mastery. So then you might change your mastery spec again. Not to say you will or won't, but the situation always comes for changing things out. Of course, once you're happy with what is going to be set as your Alliance Wars defense default, you may look to click the button right there. You can see the tick, which is just there. That is your defaulted, and that will work as of, I think it's the 10th of April to be whatever that's going to be set. So, for the meantime, just keep this as your mastery. You're not changing at the moment because I don't think it may not take in the same way. And do bear in mind with Kabam putting a new feature, we've got to pray and fingers crossed with everything that it's going to end up okay. So that's something you really need to remember. Now we need to activate the mastery, so we set active, which is the arena and SM one. Boom, that is active right there. Of course, we need to do the same for the third one when we want to switch out and change. But let's just build a straight mastery. I'll build the one that I've wanted to build for a long time, and that is one that is a suicide mastery-ish type one that maximizes damage potential and especially has a little bit of the spicy bleed, deep wounds that I really want to add in. So there we go. Everything is now set up for this this mastery that I've always wanted to have, this kind of quick switch between having the suicide masteries that I'm able to do maximization of my damage. And of course I could do the same thing with set active a new particular setup and go, hang on a minute, today what do I want to do? Well, I don't want to do any arena grinding, but I want to instead just have my general mastery that I may use a few champions with. Do bear in mind, this is not the mastery I'm going to be keeping with. I'm just using this as an example. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to set this as the active one and go, that's fine. I'll just go about my day. Do bear in mind, whatever different type of loadout that you might be switching to, your Alliance Wars defense will always default to the one. So you're like, oh, I'm in my Suicide Mastery loadout today. Like, oh, doesn't that punish? Like, no. It's a case of like, it'll always remember the pattern with it. And of course, you can set up for every different type of situation. It doesn't have to be this particular way. But one thing that I do want to stress and just let you know is that if you go, okay, General Alliance Wars defense, if it does two things, then it means that you've got 2 extra slots of loadouts for masteries. You could pretty much keep the same or have one that you want to change. Your third particular mastery, which could be this one here, could switch between different functions. It could be a Mystic Dispersion based one. It could maximize Fury buff damage. It could be a very tanky defense-based option that you might want to switch for Alliance Wars defense and experiment around. I don't know, there's lots of different possibilities and it's incredibly exciting. Even though at the moment you can see that it has this kind of like loadout active and then set active, switching between them at the moment doesn't have a unit cost, but it will do. And something that I just need to remind you of from this video, and something you really need to take away and take into consideration, is if you do that switching regularly, it will cost you 35 units a time, which look, can add up. If you're talking about switching 3 times in one day, that is a princely sum of 105 units. So you've got to make sure that if you are one of these regularly switching people, that you maximize getting extra units from different places. Something I do advise, especially those that are non-spending, is to make sure, number one, to do your 22-hour solo event. It pains me when I don't get it done. 99% of the time I will get the 22-hour solo event done. The main reason because of the free revive, the free health potion, but the 25 units. 25 units is 10 units off of trying to get yourself the switch of the mastery cost. So what we're talking about here is the idea of mitigating the minus of the 35 units. Go on a little bit of a grind attempt in the likes of Arena. Grab some units, you know, from milestones. It doesn't have to be a huge grind. It's just a little bit. Grab some units from it and it'll help out. Go and do some of the event quests, some of the lower event quests. If you're managing to do the likes of Contender, Proven, Conqueror, and Uncollected, it can give you 600 units a month. Even doing some of the low energy cost ones, like the 3 energy per time, especially in some of the lower ones, like, you know, Contender, Proven, Conqueror, can give you some extra units, which is still kind of like a good option to balance up, take up your units, and have that ability to kind of balance the books with your unit spending whenever you're doing loadout shifting and switching. And as I said, for me, my purpose for all of this is to have that option to go, look, I'll either switch to Loadout 2 for Suicide Masteries, have the general one, which is Loadout 1 as my kind of main, just messing around one. That is also, you know, for Alliance Wars defense, or maybe it's going to be structured in a different way. I'll talk about that more in another video. But having the second one for the arena farming, and then the final one, which I'm undecided, I may go down the route of Mystic Dispersion or go a different route. Just having those options is really, really good. But I hope you understand a little bit more about Mastery Loadouts, why they're so important, why I'm really excited about this and the possibilities. Look out for an advice-based video on Mastery Loadouts and different options to choose from, number one. Number two, there's going to be a video about how to, and talking about that topic of mitigating your loss of units, and maybe one other video on masteries, some mastery options and things like that. But that's been a video. Check out some tips in the description. Check out some other content located on screen, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.